You know, one thing that I think a lot of us don't even realize, it's that our nervous system is creating our reality in a lot of ways. And I'll give you an example. Imagine, two people walk into a room. One person, they walk into a room and they immediately feel calm, grounded, confident, magnetic. The other person feels anxious, this inner chaos, scared, kind of withdrawn or like really coiled up within themselves. Now, a lot of people might think, okay, well, that's a personality thing. That's their mindset. That's their beliefs. But to a large extent, it's actually their nervous system that is creating that state, that embodied state that they are experiencing, and that many other people can feel. And it's our nervous system that is like the soil that determines how our inner state grows, if you will. And like soil, that state of the soil will determine how well what you plant in it grows. So if your nervous system is very dysregulated, your thoughts and your emotions will likely follow suit. You'll feel this inner chaos, frustration, irritability, fear, shame. You will probably be thinking negative thoughts about yourself. These three things play a role in each other, and it's our nervous system that can usually tame and calm down the emotions and the thoughts that we experience. A lot of us think that it's our thoughts that calm our nervous system, but it's usually our nervous system that actually calms down the mind. And in this video, I want to talk about how our nervous system creates our reality and how you can begin regulating your nervous system so you can consciously create a different reality for yourself. So a lot of this comes back to our energetic signature. We all emit a frequency and we put that out. And on a more of a spiritual or metaphysical level, this frequency is attracting that which is on the same energetic frequency to us. And it's this notion of manifesting, what your energetic signature is will attract a reality or circumstances or people that are on that same energetic signature or frequency. But our energetic signature is an expression of our inner state, our internal embodied state. And this largely comes down to a few things. It comes down to our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, our nervous system, or whether we're regulated or not, and our level of awareness or consciousness that we bring to life. So again, go back to that example in the beginning of the video. You have a calm, confident, poised person walking into a room versus an anxious, chaotic, fearful person walking into a room. Those are two different energetic signatures. And internally, those people are experiencing different realities for themselves. I'm sure you've experienced this. Maybe you weren't aware of it, but there's probably been times in your life where you were very dysregulated and it impacted the way that you were experiencing life. What your lens that you were looking at life through, your objective reality was changed or distorted with that lens of dysregulation, or that dysregulated nervous system changed your lens of how you were experiencing that objective reality. Conversely, when we're regulated, that subjective reality changes and we can actually get more in touch with the objective reality. Our nervous system, again, plays a role in the lens that we look at life through. And that definitely plays a role in the reality that we can see and what we create through what we experience. But furthermore, if you are extremely dysregulated, your perception and your awareness begins to shrink because you're in this threat response of not knowing, if there's a threat around the corner, or you're trying to protect yourself. You're in this fight or flight response. So you won't see opportunities. You probably wouldn't even have the capacity to take on opportunities or be able to have a social connection or however it is limiting. A dysregulated nervous system is like a turtle that goes back into its shell. It's very constricted. And a turtle that's living in a shell is not experiencing life out there. The same thing is true with us. When we're dysregulated, we're like that turtle in our own shell, in this shell of, as I said, fear, shame, unease, a lot of different things. And because of that, we can't really experience life to its fullest in that way. So in that way, our nervous system is impacting our energetic state, our energetic signature, because when we're dysregulated, it impacts our thinking. It impacts our ability to process emotions and allow them to pass. It impacts the way that we are looking at life, experiencing life. And all of these things are defining our embodied state, our energetic expression, if you will. So you can see that when you have two people, different nervous system states, different thoughts, different emotions, different embodiment, and the way that they are carrying themselves in that room. It's the same room, but it's a different energetic impact and a different reality for those people. So our nervous system has one primary question, and that primary question is, am I safe? And a lot of times it goes back to things that we experienced in our past. And it's a learned experience, if you will, a learned way of being. It's like if you had an experience as a kid where, you touched the hot stove and you had a really bad experience with that, you're probably going to be on edge around hot stoves later on in life. There's a lot more nuance to that, but that's kind of the gist of it. Our nervous system kind of relays information back from the past. There's a good book called The Body Keeps Score, and it relates back to all of this kind of stuff of how our body is keeping score. Our body holds on to things, and it expresses itself in the way that we look at life, in the way our nervous system is regulated or dysregulated in certain circumstances. And it comes back to this question of, am I safe? And if we don't feel safe, what happens is we get into this fight or flight response. We feel hypervigilant. We feel very constricted within ourselves. We get this anxiety. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this. Probably all of us have experienced this at some point in time. Because the truth is no one has a completely regulated nervous system all the time. We all go through things in our childhoods and stuff, and maybe it's not intentional, but things happen in life and it causes some of these traumatic experiences or responses within, and that is held within our body, within our nervous system, and it impacts the way that we experience life later on. The degree to which we are constantly looking for threats. So our nervous system is always assessing and determining whether we're coming at life in a state of presence or protection. And that will largely, as I said, determine our energetic signature and the way that we experience life. And it's the way that we experience life, that lens that we're looking at life through, that is going to determine our behaviors, our actions, the way that we carry ourselves, our language, our body language, what we do in life. It's this capacity of our nervous system that is largely determining all of this. The way we think about ourselves, the way we talk about ourselves, the way we talk about life, our model of the world. It's all, the nervous system is kind of this underlying soil, as I said. And this is largely why thoughts alone don't work. Why trying to change your life just by thinking or through affirmations doesn't always work. Because you're trying to talk your nervous system out of something. And as I said before, it's usually it's our nervous system that is impacting our thoughts. It's not always our thoughts that can impact our nervous system. Again, the nervous system is like the soil. It's like the ground, the foundation for which thoughts can kind of arise out of. And if we're regulated or if we're dysregulated, it'll create a different mental landscape, if you will. So that's why if you have, two people and one person and they're both saying the same affirmation, I am confident or I am wealthy or something. They want to, create a different future for themselves. They want to embody something different. So you have person one in this nervous system protection phase or state. They are scared. They feel this inner shame. They have a tight body and racing thoughts. And you have person two who has a relaxed body. They have a regulated nervous system. They feel safe. They've expanded their inner capacity to feel confident, to feel wealthy. And therefore, they can actually embody that affirmation. And that is what actually will help you create a different reality, going back to those metaphysical concepts we were talking about the law of vibration, the law of attraction. It's the frequency that we are vibrating at, that we are embodying, that will attract or push away or create that reality. It'll draw those things to us. And so that's why saying an affirmation but not doing the work of regulating, it's kind of like the affirmation hits a closed door. It can't go in, it can't register. It can't contribute to that inner state. Whereas when we begin to regulate ourselves, expand that capacity to feel what that new state would be, because it's a new state likely. So if you're using an affirmation that of something you don't have, something that is foreign, that usually will make a dysregulated nervous system feel more unsafe because it's unfamiliar. And if that is the case, again, saying an affirmation of something you don't have or you haven't experienced to a dysregulated nervous system will feel very foreign. And it's like it's going to hit a locked door, closed door. You're not open to it. Regulation will allow that your awareness, your perception to allow that to come in. And through these things of regulating your nervous system and then helping to change and open your mind by, and regulating emotions, can you uplift your inner state, your internal embodied energetic signature? That these things combined is what allows you to use that law of vibration to actually embody that affirmation that you're saying or this person is saying. So you have two people. One person's dysregulated, the other person's regulated. We can't change our nervous system by thinking. We have to regulate. But the key with this is most people are trying to think their way to an internal state that doesn't yet feel safe for their nervous system. And the key is to regulate so you can expand your capacity for what does feel safe, so that you can allow that affirmation or those mental techniques or concepts to actually sit in your being, and you can feel that and be that. And the same thing is true for emotions. Dysregulated nervous systems do not process emotions. We end up staying in these chronic loops, and they kind of sit inside of us. And what that looks like is anxiety, chronic anxiety loops, or anger, or shame, or just emotional suppression. These are ways that our dysregulation actually keeps us anchored in a lower vibrational state, because these unprocessed emotions don't go anywhere. They actually sit inside of us, in our bodies, and it can impact the way that you feel. Conversely, when we are regulated, what happens is we have an emotion, let's say an unpleasant emotion, an experience, and we can allow that emotion to come. We allow it to pass. We observe it. And then it moves on. So that emotion arises, you feel it entirely because you have the capacity to feel it with this regulated nervous system. You have the capacity to actually feel that emotion. And then from there, you process it. It's processed in the space of awareness rather than reactivity, rather than identifying with that emotion. And then once you can do these things, then it just passes through. This is the healthy way to, process and work through emotions. A lot of us were never taught this, and it takes us a long time to understand how to do this. But awareness is a key component in being able to process emotions, and awareness helps you regulate your nervous system. But the thing is a lot of times it's not necessarily the emotion that's stuck. It's our nervous system that hasn't quite realized that the threat is over. Since it's always there, since we never processed it, our nervous system thinks that the threat is still there. It doesn't know the difference between a psychological or internal threat and an external threat. So then we live in this constant state of hypervigilance and fear and constantly looking for safety and anxiety. And that is dragging your vibrational state down. It's impacting the way that you carry yourself, the way you talk, the way you think, everything, your confidence. It comes back to you and your ability to regulate yourself and process the emotions. So I kind of mentioned it before, but the mind follows the body, not the other way around. So think about it this way. Have you ever experienced some sort of problem or something was weighing on you and you decided to go for a walk or lift weights or meditate or do yoga or just be in nature, and all of a sudden that problem kind of went away, didn't seem so overwhelming, or maybe you came to a solution came to you, you figured out something, you had an insight, something changed, but you didn't solve the problem necessarily. It was still there. You just regulated yourself. And that allows you to come at life differently. It allows you to look at problems differently. Things that are going on, things that are overwhelming you, your stress. Stress is largely the way that we are looking at something. It's our own perception of it that creates the stress, because you could have two people, again, walking into a room. One person is like on high alert. They're scared. They're like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And the other person's like, well, things are good. Again, a lot of nuance to that exact scenario, but let's say that, one person is regulated, the other person's not regulated. The person who's regulated is looking at and experiencing life differently than the person who is not. And a lot of times we try to change our experience here by just trying to change the thoughts. That's definitely a component of it, but until we actually do something to regulate here, have a practice or practices to be able to do that, the mind will kind of stay in the same loops. It's very difficult to take yourself out of that. So a lot of times we think that a calm mind will regulate the nervous system or create a regulated nervous system, but it's actually a regulated nervous system that will help create a calm mind, an open perception, a new way of being, if you will. But there's something that's even deeper than the nervous system. I've kind of talked about the nervous system being the soil and the things that grow on it, and how it turns out being, thoughts, emotions, our reality. There's something deeper than the soil, and that is awareness. Awareness is the container for every experience that we have, this entire human experience. And we can watch, observe the nervous system dysregulation, the patterns, the thoughts, the emotions, all of it, everything, through awareness. Non-judgmental awareness, the awareness that is just being. If we can return back to this, that in itself can begin to regulate the nervous system, because we're not living from reactivity anymore. We're not feeding the patterns of dysregulation. We're able to just watch it, and then it passes through. It ends. This too shall pass. The reason much of our nervous system dysregulation stays alive is because we feed the cycles by reacting to them, by acting on from fear and shame, and we strengthen the story within our mind and within our nervous system, and we tell ourselves, "Okay, I'm soothing this fear, or I'm coping with it. I'm keeping it at bay by frantically, striving, or running away from something or avoiding something or whatever it is." But the truth is that's just a way of trying to soothe ourselves. And in doing that, we're actually strengthening that pattern of dysregulation of the story. So to come back to awareness, the kind of, I like to think about it as like awareness is behind me. And it's watching me from just behind. And when I can return to that, the human experience is just happening. But I return to that spiritual essence, the truth of who I am, if you will. And then I don't get so caught up in the patterns and the stories, and things begin to calm. Awareness is a key component for regulating and having a expanded capacity within. So it's the key here is to realize that you're not the thought, you're not the emotion, you're not the anxiety, you're not even the dysregulated nervous system. You're the awareness that is witnessing all of it. And the key is to come back to that. My favorite practice for this is meditation, breath work, just self-observation, being. But to the dysregulated nervous system that always seeks stimulation or distraction, this seems extremely boring and extremely useless. Or the dysregulated nervous system that always needs to be productive, to be striving, seems like it's a waste of time. It's the path to your liberation, to you creating a different reality from within through regulation. This is the path to transforming yourself and your life. And I don't say that lightly. So our nervous system is creating our reality, both in the way that we experience the objective reality by creating the lens that we look at life through, but also through the law of vibration by impacting our embodied energetic state, our frequency that we are emitting into the ether, if you will, out into the universe. And it's that which will attract more of that which is on the same energetic frequency. So the key is to understand that nervous system regulation is crucial to being able to experience a different reality by changing and calming the mind, by being able to process and have a capacity for emotions. So the goal isn't to try and force yourself into some higher state by trying to think your way there or conceptualize it. It's embodied practice right now in this moment. It's living in awareness, observing unconscious patterns that are running your mind, your body, and your life. It's about creating safety inside your nervous system so that your natural presence can begin to emerge. And when you are in presence, your energetic frequency rises. The way you live life and look at life changes. So I hope this video helps you understand how your nervous system is creating your reality. It's a very powerful thing to understand, to be able to regulate your nervous system. It starts with this. Transformation, as I said, starts with being able to regulate. It's self-mastery. It's the soil of your life, as I mentioned. So I hope this video helps you, and I'll see you in the next video.